Okay, today we're going to do 7-8, simple and compound interest. Okay, there's going to be a lot of vocab today. Well, not a lot, but a little bit of vocab today, so you need to write it all down because it's all important. Okay, so principal is the money first put into a savings account. So if you go to a bank and you want to put money in a savings account, the money you first give them is called the principal. Okay, the interest is what the bank pays you based on that interest rate. So you're going to make money on certain accounts even by doing nothing. Just by putting money in their bank, they're going to give you money, and it's based on an interest rate. Okay, so one of the interest rates we're going to deal with today, the interest formulas, is called the simple interest. And simple interest is only paid on the principal. Okay, so it just pays you interest on the principal. Okay, which we'll get to another one here in a minute. So a formula that you for sure need is the simple interest formula. I equals PRT. So your interest that you earn equals your principal times the rate times the time you put it in there. And this time is in years. Okay, I will probably give you this formula on a test, but you have to know what all the letters mean. Alright, so make sure and write that down. Okay, so let's do a few. So interest equals PRT. I would write that at the top of your page. You deposit $400 in a savings account. The interest rate is 5% per year. Find the simple interest earned. So since it says simple interest, we know we're going to use this formula. Earned in 6 years, and find the total of the principal interest. So the simple interest is PRT. So principal was $400. The rate is 5%, which is 0.05. And then times 6 years, since it's in years. Okay, when you multiply that out, you should get $120. Okay, so what that means is after 6 years, you've done nothing with the $400. You haven't spent it. You haven't put any more money in. Then you're going to get $120 more dollars than you had in there before. Okay, just from the bank. Okay, so that's what the interest is. But it also says up here to find the total. So your total is going to be your principal that you started with plus the interest that you earned. Okay, so that is going to end up being $520. So after 6 years, $400 at 5% interest, you're going to end up with $520 just by doing nothing, just by leaving the money alone. Okay, so if we take this same problem and do 3 months, okay, we got to switch it up a little bit. So interest equals, we still have 400, we still have the 0.05%, and then, but instead of 6 years, it says 3 months. So how are we going to write that? Okay, well, you just put it over how many months are in a year. It's 3/12 of a year, which is the same as 1/4 of a year. Okay, so instead of a 6 there, it's going to have a 4. So obviously it's going to be less money. Okay, so after 3 months, you will have earned $5 in interest. Just put this in your calculator. 400 times 0.05 times 1/4. Okay, and then your total would be 405 because you would just add the 5 to the 400. Okay, and that's it. Okay, interest equals principal times rate times time. Simple interest is fairly simple, like it says. The next one is called, excuse me, compound interest. So it says some accounts pay interest on the principal and the interest earned. Okay, so this is called compound interest. So as simple as I can make it is you put money in a bank. Okay, depending on how many times it's compounded, it's not only going to pay you on the original amount, it's also going to pay you on any money you've earned in interest. So it's going to keep adding to it, where the simple interest is always just back to the original principal. So you would actually make more if you did compound interest. So and principal and interest together is the balance. So here is the formula that you need for this compound interest formula. Okay, so B is the balance equals principal parentheses times 1 plus r's the rate raised to the n, which is the interest period. Okay, now what's tricky about this, and I always rewrite it this way, what's tricky about this is this n has to be multiplied by the time up here and divided by, we'll get to an example, but this formula is the one I actually use more instead of this one. This is the one that's in your book, but this is kind of how you use it. Okay, so write them both down if you want. So let's try this. Find the balance. So we have balance equals principal 1 plus r over n times rate times time. Okay, so our balance is what we want. Our principal is $400. Okay, so this is, well, it's not the same problem. So 1 plus our rate is 5%, so 0.05. Okay, since it's compounded annually, so this is why there's that first equation. If it's compounded annually, it would just be over 1, so it wouldn't change anything. Okay, so you don't have to put that in there, but you can to practice if you want. Okay, that's where that first formula would come in. The first one on the last page. Okay, and the rates, so you have rate twice. I do make sure I'm doing this right as I remember. Okay. Oh no, this isn't rate. This is in. Oops. Whoops. Whoopsie. I said that wrong. I thought that looked wrong. Go away. Okay. Let me erase it. This is not rate times time. It should be an N, which I might have said N, but doesn't look like it. Okay. So this is N. Okay. And N is the number, however many times you're compounding it annually, or compounding it how many times a year. So this one is just annually, so it's just once a year. So once a year it would just be 1 times the time, which is 4 years. So you really don't have to have that, but you will on the next one. So 400, this is just 0.05 over 1, so it's just 1 plus 0.05. And this is just 1 times 4, so it would be to the 4th. Now let me make sure I have that. Okay, good. All right, so you can put this all in your calculator, or you can make this 1.05, because 1 plus 0.5 to the 4th. Now you put this in your calculator, make sure that the 1.05 is raised to the 4, and not, you don't multiply first and then raise it to the 4. But 1.05 to the 4th times 400, or you can just put it in how it looks right now. You should get about $486.20. Okay, so after 4 years compounded annually, so it's just every year, you will have 486. Now this one, you notice it already gives you the balance. You don't have to go back and add. Okay, so it looks like you made $86.20 in interest. Okay, now oops, I don't know what that is. Let's look at our next one. Find the balance on a deposit of $1,000. Okay, so our balance is 1,000. 1 plus our rate is 6%, so 0.06 over semi-annually. So that's twice a year. So it's going to be over 2, and then it's going to be 2 times 5. Okay, because it's semi-annually. Up here was 1 because it was annually. Semi-annually means twice a year for 5 years. So 1,000, 1 plus 0.03, because 0.06 divided by 2 is 0.03. 2 times 5 is 10. Now you can try to put all of this into your calculator at once, but make sure you get the right answer. Make sure you put it in right. You might have to put a few more parentheses in. Okay, so this would end up being 1,000 times 1.03 to the 10th power. Okay, so 1.03 to the 10th times 1,000, and you should I just made that problem up. So 1.03 to the 10th times 1,000. So you should end up with $1,343.92. Okay. Now if you just put it all in the calculator at once, you can do that as well, as long as you do it correctly. Okay, and so maybe check and make sure. Okay, so $1,343.92, that's the balance. So you started with $1,000. If they compound it twice a year, then after 5 years you'll have $1,343.92. Okay?